Lots to report on since we've been gone.
Kind of a lot's been going on, yeah.
I think you can take a couple minutes for dinner and all the news breaks.
Let's start on the Democratic side. So, still too close to call. It's within, I think, 14 delegates the last time we checked.
Yeah. And there are 8 that will need to be reassigned. There are 7 for O'Malley and 1 for undecided. So, depending on how those break and where they go, that could be news.
I think the Clinton campaign thinks they know something about where they're going to go.
Yeah. Yeah, but the big news is O'Malley is suspending his campaign.
Officially.
So officially,
that's the big news?
I think so. I mean, there's one less,
on that side.
There's 1/3 less candidates on the Democratic side. So I think that's pretty big news. I kind of thought he'd wait for New Hampshire, maybe South Carolina. He did not. He announced after getting 1% of the support in Iowa that he was suspending his campaign.
No, we also have Huckabee suspending his campaign on the Republican side.
The huckster, yeah.
Okay.
Which, because of the way that the caucuses work, that's not actually going to influence anything from tonight.
Right.
It's not going to be reallocated anywhere. But going into New Hampshire, that's going to be interesting that he's not going to be pulling his 2% away from whoever those people decide to go to. We won't know till then.
And it'll be interesting to see where that 2% goes. Yeah. If this was a or a Democratic caucus, it would matter a lot where Huckabee's support would go, but it doesn't matter much.
Here's the breaking news.
This is the most important thing.
Ted Cruz has won.
Yes.
And we're watching...
I called it.
She called it.
Mm-hmm.
We're watching Trump's concession speech, and it looks like he's being very magnanimous. We hoped maybe he'd go off the rails and scream about conspiracies and lawsuits and call everybody idiots, but he's very magnanimous. He is congratulating Cruz, and he gave a nice shout out to Huckabee, so he's playing the politician part.
Well, one of the interesting things we found out while we were off, some of the news was breaking, is that Trump's Iowa team is not with him right now. So
he's
they're
all off at the moment.
Yeah, they all went off to go caucus for Trump because they're from Iowa. So they are kind of spread out across the state. So we're anticipating that his remarks tonight will be a little bit. He's gonna wing it. Fuck it, he'll do it live.
He does most things winging it, I feel like, anyway, or it's like some carefully orchestrated thing to make him sound crazy. But anyway, his campaign has been trying to kind of tamp down expectations in Iowa for the last week or so. He personally hasn't. He's said, we're going to win Iowa. We're doing great among evangelicals and all of that. But
he said the Iowa voters were stupid.
He did. But his campaign has kind of come out and said, hey, we probably won't win Iowa. We never anticipated winning Iowa. Cruz is likely to win Iowa. So we're not going to worry about it too much. Trump, I don't think, is capable of saying, I'm going to lose something. So he kind of was enforced this week saying, we're going to win and we're going to do fine.
Wow,
but he lost.
That's it. Okay, so Trump's concession speech was about 2 minutes. Marco Rubio's was about a half hour for coming in third.
He was talking,
Rubio did really a lot better than we thought he was going to do. So
that everybody thought.
Yeah.
He came within 1 point of Trump.
Which is crazy.
Less than 1 point.
I mean, the national polls showed Trump at above 30%, in most cases around 37%. Cruz was a little lower than that at 20, 25. And Rubio wasn't hitting anything above 13 anywhere. And to have the first votes be cast and have Rubio come within 1 point of Trump and have Ted Cruz win in Iowa is not super shocking, but certainly is an upset. And so I understand why Cruz decided to make a speech tonight, just in terms of he did so much better than anyone thought he would do.
Yeah, and
Rubio,
Rubio. His speech was a little long, but it was not. I disagree with him on some things, but it was not a bad speech.
Yeah. It sounded like a victory speech.
It sounded like a victory lap. Yeah. It was a victory lap as far as his campaign's concerned.
For sure.
This will be very interesting.
We both need to squeeze in because nobody can see you.
I'm actually going to go listen
Hillary, 90%, she's up by just 3 delegates now. 50% each, Hillary and Bernie.
Wow. 3 delegates. So the Clinton-Sanders is crazy, right? So we were looking at this poll that came out February of 2015, so basically a year ago. And it had Clinton at 68% and Bernie at 10?
Yeah.
She was up about 50 points. And that's because we didn't really know who was going to be running and that kind of stuff. But, I mean, clear victory for her a year ago. Jump to now, and she's ahead by 3 delegates out of thousands, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's
about 1,300 points.
It's as neck and neck.
1,300 delegates are possible, and they're 4 apart.
It's as neck and neck as you can get. I mean, it's crazy. It's not going to be called for a minute. Bernie, as we talked about earlier, needed to really spread his support around the state. They looked at the Des Moines college, where a lot of his supporters are, and he won 5 out of 6 delegates there, which was to be expected. But again, a lot of those kids didn't go home. They voted in Des Moines, and what they needed to do for Bernie was to go home and vote in those rural areas so that they'd have delegates spread around the state. And looks like not a lot of them did that. Some obviously did, or people in those areas we didn't expect them to vote for him did. But
People
he's doing
change their mind, or-
tremendously well. I mean,
yeah, he's overperforming. It looks like.
yeah.
It looks like.
So it's really interesting. Lots has happened since an hour ago. So if somebody wants to run down Trav, maybe Rubio, what did he say?
It's a typical stump speech, 7 years of Obama is terrible. Hillary is not qualified because of her emails.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Our military is going to be huge. Thank Jesus and God. He did say something a little scary. He said that our freedom is not bestowed by the government, but by God. So I guess he wants to separate the Constitution with the Bible, I guess.
Well, so do I. I'd like to keep them really separate. He wants to conflate the two.
It sounds like he wants to replace one with the other.
That's not unexpected, especially for an evangelical out of Iowa.
But as far on the Republican side, which is what you have to keep in mind about Iowa. Remember, Bachmann won the straw poll in 2012. Santorum won, was it in 2008?
Yes. And Huckabee won in 2012.
Won the caucus in 2012.
In the caucus. Mm-hmm.
So this is not a great predictor of who goes on to win the nomination.
No. Iowa's not great for Republicans.
But Ted Cruz needed to win tonight for perception, if nothing else. And
yeah. So we had a really specific question from one of our listeners about why does Iowa matter? Kind of don't billionaires run everything anyway? And what is this little caucus in this small state doing? And I think that the best way that I can answer that is that, yes, billionaires run everything, and they certainly write the laws, and there's lots of lobbyists, and they buy elections, or they try. In the case of this election, they tried to buy it a couple of times. The Koch brothers backed Jeb Bush originally, right?
Yeah, we'll get to Jeb in a second.
And he got like
a good
2%
night for Jeb.
of the vote. So
not a good night.
While it's true to Josh's question, whether or not billionaires control the country, I would say post Citizens United, that's true. But I think that the reason that the reporters are going crazy about Iowa is because it's the first. So we've been talking about this campaign for a year and a half. And everyone's been saying how great they're going to do, and we've been polling certain numbers of voters or potential voters or people in these districts. But until we get the first votes cast, before that, we don't really know anything. And I think, especially for Trump in this case, people were really wondering, are people going to actually cast their vote for Trump, or are they going to support him, and when they get into that box, are they going to be like, Donald Trump? Like, I don't think that's probably a good idea.
Yeah, so if you believe the polls up to this point, it seems like a lot of people may have done just that.
Yeah, which is what he was expressly hoping not to have happen, right?
Right.
He was really running on this idea that, no, the polls are correct, people love me, they're going to vote for me, I'm a winner. And we've sort of looked at it and said, and it's Iowa, so we kind of knew he would lose, but maybe not by as much, and certainly not with Rubio as close on his coattails.
I thought he was going to win. He was holding strong in the polls for the last couple of weeks, and I really thought the Ted Cruz is a Canadian thing really hurt Cruz, because I thought a lot of people didn't even know that. But then something changed, and Rachel was onto this. I didn't really pick up on it. We don't know for sure, but this whole skipping the debate thing may not have worked out the way he wanted to.
I think it was a bad idea, and maybe it had nothing to do with it, but he didn't win Iowa. So, yeah, when we started today, I said I thought it would be Cruz Clinton, and
he
I'm
underpolled
so
by
far,
a ton. I think the last poll showed him up 8 points or so.
Yeah,
and he
lost
losing by 4. So
he lost
that's
12
points
in the last week.
And a lot of those voters may have gone to Rubio, not so much Cruz.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah.
That's my guess.
And so sort of how far out Cruz can go. I think it's a really good night for Marco Rubio.
Absolutely.
I think it's the best thing. He wanted second.
He's going to suck up the donor money from Bush.
Yes.
He may get some Koch money now. They've been kind of sitting out, waiting to see.
Yep.
Who's going to emerge.
So that's again why the Iowa vote is sort of important, is for two reasons. One,
fundraising.
It gives us the first example of how actual voters will cast their vote. And number two, for fundraising purposes, the next primary, not a caucus, but primary, is in New Hampshire in a week. And so donors are going to look at how those voters voted, and they're going to say, okay, I'm going to put my money here instead of here. Additionally, some people, like Martin O'Malley, may drop out because they look at what happened and they say, I'm not viable.
He did drop out.
I know, but on the Republican side, other people like O'Malley may also drop out. So that's why Iowa's important. Is it sort of, especially with a field as large as the Republican field, there's so many candidates, and when they think they may get something like they want to be the Rubio in the room and they aren't, they may drop out. So it may shrink in the Republican field, changes where donors are going to donate, and it gives us, the pundits out there, an idea of how actual voters are going to vote.
Now let's talk about Bernie Hillary for a hot second.
Yeah.
Regardless of how this finishes up, I think Bernie's going to carry a lot of momentum from this, because he's either going to overtake her and win, or he's going to come within just a handful of delegates of winning. And that's not what Hillary's people wanted. They wanted at least a fairly decisive 3, 4, 5 point win to ride into New Hampshire, because Bernie's probably going to win New Hampshire fairly handily.
Yeah.
Now he is. Now there's still that firewall that I don't see him overcoming once we get to South Carolina and beyond.
Yes.
But
Southern states are going to be a real big problem for Bernie.
Yeah.
She has a really large and wide support network down there.
And it looks like the total's sort of starting to trickle up for her. It was at 3. Now it's up to 6. It's up to 5 or 6. So,
I mean, it is as neck and neck as I've ever seen it.
Now, the Clinton campaign basically sort of declared victory about 10 minutes ago when we still looked like we were tied, so they may know something about the outstanding precincts, and they may end up a percentage point or two ahead with some level of comfortability.
She looks like it's 91% in for the Democrats, so
she may just hold on. So I don't know. I mean, the conventional wisdom is Bernie really had to win this, but I think coming within 1 point, maybe
5 or 6 delegates. That's
enough.
Crazy. That's crazy
in terms of momentum, and maybe
and
people.
I think he's going to slaughter her in New Hampshire.
He will, but the point. This is what has to happen. People have to look at this result tomorrow, then couple with New Hampshire, and go, "Oh wow, maybe Bernie really can win. Maybe he really is viable."
Yeah.
That's what he needs.
Or
it's about perception more than anything.
Yeah, but then after South Carolina, do we go, well, he lost Iowa, and we forget that he lost it by a point. He won New Hampshire, sure, but he's going to get killed in South Carolina.
He'll get killed there in a lot of the southern states, but now we're talking about where we are in Colorado and some of the moderate Midwestern states.
Yep.
Can he start changing some minds there and appear more viable? Maybe to some older voters, to some people maybe our parents' age, who are probably more entrenched in Hillary because all the crazy socialism stuff scares them, and maybe he is able to craft his message a little better to reach a broader base in these next few weeks. We'll see.
And now, the same way that we talk about Republican primary voters, we have to talk about Democratic primary voters, which is they're the base of the base. They're the most sort of committed people in the party. And they tend to be the most left-leaning, the most liberal, the same way that Republican voters in the primaries are the most right-leaning.
Right.
So it's hard to judge on a general, which is why we worry about our candidates and you guys worry about yours, in terms of who can win in general.
And that's Iowa, too. The first two, the first caucus and the first primary are weird kind of outlier states that have their own thing going. Iowa, Democrats are typically very liberal. Conservatives are very right-wing. New Hampshire is their own thing entirely.
Yep.
But again,
East Coast kind of libertarian on the Republican side, but also, fairly conservative. New Hampshire's confusing for me, especially as the second state that votes.
Which they will never give up.
No.
Those two.
No, they even threaten both of the parties with polling delegates and stuff if anyone decides to go before them. So that's pretty entrenched. I think it'll stay that way kind of forever.
Yeah.
But it is interesting. But then when you start to get into the other states and you get into Super Tuesday, which is March 1st, which we talked about earlier, That's a bunch of states that vote on the same day, whether it's caucus or primary.
And we'll be back here live streaming for that.
Yes.
To explain it
With
all
a better
to you.
camera, so we don't look quite so
With
fuzzy.
a better camera.
And that doesn't necessarily knock everyone out, but that's kind of the moment when the field narrows the most for historically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most people who don't have a chance drop out after Super Tuesday. Iowa's not a great predictor for Republicans about wins, but is a pretty good predictor for Democrats. So not in every case, but we were looking at a chart earlier from 1980 to current, and almost zero candidates on the Democratic Party didn't win either Iowa or New Hampshire. They won either one or both of those to get the nomination. Not that they necessarily win the presidency, but just to get the nomination. Almost everyone since 1980 has gotten one or both of Iowa and New Hampshire.
Yeah.
So that's another reason why it's important. In terms of what Josh's question was about billionaires and all of that stuff, yeah. I mean, that's part of why we're Bernie supporters, right?
Yeah, a big part.
Bernie talks about...
And if Bernie doesn't get it, the longer he's in, the more he's going to have to pull Hillary Clinton more to the income inequality and taking power out of the hands. And look, and Josh and others, if you're not so sure, the other side is completely 100% bought for, stamped, paid for by the billionaire class. I mean, nakedly.
Yes.
Nakedly. Just wait to hear.
Yes.
They're going to talk about who the Koch brothers support tomorrow. It's probably going to be Marco Rubio. And they're very blatant about they want their billions to influence all of politics. So,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah, they're not against Citizens United.
Apples.
They're not trying to. Now, there's been some talk, I would say, in the debates from some of the, like, kids' table people, Carly Fiorina and a couple of others about, like...
Who cares?
Well, I'm saying, like, it's true. Like, Bernie's message, I think, has gotten across to the other side in some cases. Talking about the middle class and talking about billionaires is one thing. What they propose to do about that problem is the devil's in the details, right? So, yeah, she's talking kind of the same as Bernie, or kind of like it makes sense what she's saying. When you dig into her policy proposals, or any of them that talk about income inequality, you realize it's still really about trickle-down economics, and it's still about not taxing the rich, and it's still about, this flat tax system and all that kind of economic stuff. So even if they sound okay when you really dig into their politics, they don't want to change the system. They don't want to do anything fundamentally to change the rich being rich and the rest of us sort of being in servitude. Yeah. Essentially.
And Rubio says that explicitly.
Yeah, he's so establishment, right? So we've talked about this on the podcast before, that Rubio is really being groomed by the Republican Party because their frontrunners are nuts. Everyone hates Ted Cruz, and Donald Trump says insane things.
Yeah, the Republican establishment can't decide who they hate more. In the last few weeks, it seems as though they've hated Trump less.
Because Ted Cruz, literally, everyone that has ever known him hates him. His college roommate.
Oh, his colleagues in the Senate hate him worse than any liberal you can find.
Everyone who has ever worked with him. He used to clerk for the Supreme Court, and a bunch of clerks came out on both sides and said, he's an asshole.
You can't stand
He's
this
an
guy.
asshole. I can't stand him. He's a jerk.
Can't work with him.
Can't compromise with him. He's unpleasant to be around. He's smug. He's
mendacious.
He's just not a nice person. So he has that going against him. And then Trump's Trump. And you like Trump, but you got to be realistic in a general.
Well, now what happens?
Right.
Are Trump supporters now going to get spooked that he came in second, or think less of him because he's a winner?
Is he weak now? Is he like a loser and he's an idiot like he calls everyone else all the time? I don't know.
Yeah, his whole campaign is based on I win all the time. I'm the winner and everyone else is the
winner.
loser.
I'm going to make America
Even though
a winner
it's
again.
just Iowa and we know that. What about his supporters, especially people who haven't been involved in the political process in some ways?
And as we said earlier, we looked at some polls that said that 43% of Republican caucusers in Iowa were new. So this was the first year they ever caucused.
Did they all play it up planning to vote for Trump and somebody made a speech and they changed their mind?
I don't know. That's what's fun about caucuses, right?
We don't know.
People get the opportunity to influence each other in communities where they know each other. I don't know. I think Trump was always going to lose Iowa. I think Cruz, in the last month or so, really kind of nailed that section because of the evangelicals. I don't think he'll win the nomination. I don't know. I don't know.
Who, Cruz?
Yeah.
No.
I don't think so. I think
No,
he's
I
another
think
Huckabee.
Cruz is built for Iowa. He's not gonna.
Not New
I don't think he's
Hampshire.
gonna do well in New Hampshire.
No.
South Carolina right now, Trump is dominating. So unless those polls are wacky, which I don't think they usually are in South Carolina, it's the first two states where the polls are wacky.
They're like
usually.
totally unreliable, and you're like, don't worry about it. Just
especially
wait.
New Hampshire. Remember in New Hampshire, and this has to give the Hillary campaign some comfort. They went into that down in most polls by close to 10 to Obama, and they wound up winning by 8 to 10.
Yeah.
It was like a 20-point swing, and it surprised everybody.
Yeah.
So, but that was different. I
That's
don't
Obama.
know.
I don't know. Sanders really knocked it out of the park tonight, though. I mean, even if he doesn't win, they're within 4 delegates right now. By the way.
He proved
4
a lot. I
delegates,
mean,
so.
he made up such huge ground in such short time. It's pretty amazing.
And he'll almost certainly win New Hampshire.
He's going to win New Hampshire, even if Hillary outperforms. I mean, it's right next to Vermont, so they know him really, really well there. But see, in the South, they don't, and they don't care.
What's interesting, I think, looking at the polls that we're looking at right now, is that Ted Cruz won. Handily-ish. But he won 28%. So, 28% of the Republican caucus voters in Iowa is vanishingly small. Percentage of, like, average voters. And as is Trump's 24%, as is Rubio's 20%. I mean, this is a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of people that vote.
And Rubio went out and gave a victory lap like he just won King of the World.
He just won the presidency. I mean, he sounded to me like he was like, we won the presidency.
For
and
getting
like,
22% in a Republican caucus.
In Iowa.
I
mean, that's a tiny fraction of people that vote.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. But again, it is about perception. My buddy Ben Carson managed to get 9. God bless those Carson supporters.
Oh my God.
I don't know if he's going to drop out or not. I don't know. But now does it coalesce into a cleaner 3-way race? Trump v. Establishment, Rubio v. Christian Crusader, Cruz.
Yeah, I don't know. I
mean, that would be easier for everybody to digest and understand. But
I don't think everyone's going to bail out. Okay, Dana's back.
I'm back.
Hi. So,
Trump didn't say anything crazy.
Not at all.
No.
Everything was perfectly fine. I just went and listened, and it was all very congenial and, very normal.
But he got the hell off the stage in a hurry.
He was not on long.
So he could be trashing his hotel room Keith Richards style right now. I don't know.
I certainly hope so, but I don't think that it's going to be put on the main stage for us all to see.
No, we were hoping maybe he would, but I guess he's kind of shifting now to being an actual presidential candidate, which may work against him because
his supporters.
His whole appeal was that he was this wild, crazy outsider, non-PC.
Right.
I don't think his supporters wanted to see a bunch of magnanimous, good job Ted Cruz, and I'll miss Mike Huckabee. And
no, they want him to burn it down.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. Okay, we're not all on the flame
agree.
here, so let's try to scooch in here. All right. So, has anyone checked if we have questions or comments that we need to address?
Let me do that right now.
Let's do that real quick, just to make sure.
We have nothing from chat, nothing from Twitter, but let me make sure we haven't gotten an email.
Okay. Okay, so predictions in terms of who's going to drop out on the Republican side. After Iowa, before New Hampshire, it's only a week.
Santorum's done.
Santorum, I guess.
Yeah.
Santorum's done.
Huckabee already said. He's
Guys
done.
like Huckabee and Santorum were in this because maybe they would surprise because they've done well in Iowa before.
Yeah.
So it makes sense they would stick it out through Iowa.
Yep.
And now that they got toasted, I don't know. Bush, I don't know. You think he's going to try to hang in till Super Tuesday at least, but his money's going to dry up tomorrow
and
morning.
He came in 7th.
With
out of
3%.
10, right?
And he spent not only did he spend a shitload of money in Iowa, he spent a shitload of money going after Marco Rubio.
Right.
And how did that work out for him?
That's true.
That's absolutely true.
That's true.
Although that could have ended up working in favor for Marco Rubio.
Or maybe television ads just don't do anything anymore.
I don't understand why
I don't know.
they spend so much money on the television ads. A lot of people don't see them. A lot of people see them for free.
Hillary's starting to pull
Or
away
we
a little bit.
DVR it and we fast forward through them because who wants to watch a bunch of political ads yelling at people?
And if there's one that's particularly interesting, we watch it online, and their spending didn't.
They could do this
mean anything.
and just YouTube it and not have to spend the
Here's a
millions.
bit of breaking news. We had about a 4 delegate difference between Sanders and Clinton, and now she's opened it up to about 11 or 12.
Oh, wow, okay.
So this maybe we'll start to see her pulling away a little bit and maybe get a 2 to 3 point cushion.
No, did
Rachel
they
called
specifically say
Plane
whether or not they were
cruise.
doing a round 2, or if people were just...
This is this is all the way done. So like
This is all the
the
way
rounds
done.
are done,
Okay.
then they call.
They're
them
just
in.
reporting
Okay.
what
That's
the
what we
final
figured
results
out.
were.
Well, Undecided still had 1, so I wasn't sure if they had said Undecided
that was.
is
I
no
think it's
longer
like
allowable
because it's
anymore.
per precinct. The precincts that reported are the ones that's the percentage. The ones that are still doing rounds haven't reported back in. Is what I was looking at.
Like, how could you report 1% is still going for Undecided if they're not reporting?
I don't know.
Okay.
No, because
I
maybe
was confusing.
the total aggregate of all the undecideds out there comes to 1% of the total delegates.
Oh yeah, she's at 11 now.
Is
Okay.
is what they're saying. Yeah, so it looks like she's starting to pull away a little bit.
But 11 delegates? I mean, that's crazy.
Out of 1,300?
Yeah, but
14
Well,
delegates.
and it'll be 20 state delegates.
Steve Kornacki just said that the remaining precincts out there are in Hillary strong regions.
Okay,
Right.
so
Thinks.
she'll probably get.
So she'll probably get 2%, maybe 3%,
Well, and
if this holds up.
You have to remember that these are county delegates. So the 1,300 are county delegates.
I thought they were precinct delegates, then they go to county.
There's precinct, then it
So
goes to
it's
county.
precinct delegates that are 1,300. Then there's county delegates. But what they're reporting here is that they'll both get 20 state delegates because this is not a winner-take-all.
Right. The Democrats
So-
don't do winner take all. So they'll each take.
Well, in Iowa.
In Iowa. So they'll each take 20 regardless of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
neither campaign is really worried about the delegate count at this point. If one gets 20 or one gets 19,
Right.
It's about who wins
perception.
Iowa.
Who can say I
Yeah.
won?
Right.
Yeah.
And Bernie really needed to come out today and say I won.
Well, or I think he counts it as a win if he says it I'm just as good. Like
Right.
it came out the
You
same.
got this. Well, if they can spin it,
That
sure.
counts as a win.
He didn't
you
win.
can spin it.
But I think what he does
For
is he
tonight,
says,
though,
I go back to February of 2015 where she led me by 50 points.
Yeah, exactly. That's
And
what I'm saying.
today,
They
I
count this as
lost
a win.
by 14 delegates.
If today's
like,
about momentum,
I don't
then-
know. I don't know how that swings the Southern firewall though. If you're
no,
an African American voter, a strong Hillary supporter in South Carolina,
Yeah.
you're just looking at this and go, okay, she won.
She won. Oh, she lost there. Who cares?
I think it really
Actually.
depends on how it's reported tomorrow. If they say like basic tie,
Well,
Then I
it's
think
not.
that-
It's not though. I mean, you could say it was close, but I mean the
well, as far as a delegate count from a state
no
delegate
no
perspective
but
is concerned, it's a tie.
sure.
So it depends on what the headlines read. If
The
they
headlines
if they,
will
if
say
they
Hillary
say
won
if they say
Iowa or-
state delegate tie.
No, they never do. They're gonna
They're gonna be
say
sensational,
somebody won.
right?
Yeah, that's not clickbait.
They gotta say somebody won, and they're
Yeah.
gonna say Hillary won, and it's gonna be her smiling face on the front page of every
Right.
paper.
Right.
A couple
Yes.
papers, especially maybe like Vermont or other places, are gonna have Bernie and saying like he made up 50 points and came damn close. But most
Yeah.
of the publications are gonna have
Yeah.
Hillary smiling face,
Yeah.
calling her the winner.
She won. And
She won.
to be fair,
Which is what we expected.
she will have won.
But it's a hell of a
But
job
man,
by Sanders.
oh my
Yeah.
God. I mean, especially in Iowa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
and
tremendous.
even the most Sanders-friendly people said, you know, based on the way that math in Iowa works and the way that the delegates are counted, it's going to be like 3-4 points Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
So for it to be
To closer than that,
Like
they
have it
less
be
than
don't
1%.
less than 1%,
Yeah.
is...
No, that's heartening.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they still have to hope to change a lot of minds in a month, and
Right.
that can be done, especially if we don't know if something crazy comes down the pike with the emails or something.
Well, I think that's on a lot of people's minds. I don't know if you guys touched
It's on
this
my
at all,
mind.
but it's on
We
a lot of people's
haven't.
mind. I think that
So-
the idea that if Hillary Clinton gets handed the nomination and 2 weeks later gets handed some sort of indictment,
Well,
that could be a serious
remember-
problem. Whether or not
remember-
there's any teeth behind it or whether it matters.
Remember, this from the Obama Justice Department. So if
Correct.
they have to hand something down, it's not going to come after the nomination.
Well,
Yeah.
I agree, but they also just handed out on
The
I
FBI
can't
started
remember if it was Thursday or
investigating-
Friday. No, the Obama
Yeah.
administration specifically, their independent Department of Justice investigation. I can't remember if it was Thursday or it was Friday, but came out with the specifics about the fact that there were in fact 20
Top
secret emails that
yeah.
they
Yeah.
reclassified as top secret based on our server, and they're not going to release it. And they did that. I think it was
Friday.
Friday. It was like 3 days before
the
caucus.
Iowa caucus. So
So
my
I
concern,
don't think they're playing politics with this that much.
No.
here's
But
my concern.
ultimately, though,
Here's my concern. As a person who really loves Bernie, really supporter of Hillary, love them both. I'm concerned that it's gonna continue and that at some point it's possible that there's an indictment. And if that happens, what do we do? What do we do? If it comes out, I mean, right? I mean, I think that it's concerning for me. I've always thought the email thing was bullshit. Like, no one cares. It's not a big deal. It's sort of this fabricated thing.
Well, now even Bernie is saying people should care.
And it's not just him. It's the FBI is now investigating in a way that they really weren't before. And there are top secret things that weren't existing before.
Oh.
In a way that makes me, as a Hillary supporter, I'm also a Bernie supporter. Like, I get torn about this, mostly Bernie, but, like, I do love Hillary. But I get this sense that, like, I don't want to take the chance, electability-wise, that in August there's some sort of indictment of my candidate.
Yeah, this needs to get wrapped up sooner.
It needs to be, like, done. Like,
it would look bad. I mean, mostly because people don't understand. It's not like these were classified top secret at some point in time.
They were sent out, and they have been classified as top secret and shouldn't have been sent that way, is what we're saying.
Hold on. Last week they were classified as top secret. What the group...
Because they're being released.
No, the group that went through all of them, this is critical, what their job was to go through every email on Hillary's home server and decide whether or not it should have been classified, secret, top secret, classified, whatever.
Yeah.
So there's an entire classification group that's gone through that entire group of things.
Yeah.
It's not like they were classified top secret and she was just like, just send them to my home server, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
They were just normal. No,
that's a Democratic talking point. No. But I don't think it's a legal point.
It's absolutely critical, and it is a legal point, at least according to Hillary's top staffers. That it's important that you understand that these were not classified as top secret until somebody went to them after the fact and said, actually, now that these are getting released to reporters, we would like this to be classified as top secret.
But think about that, right? So there are 22 emails. Hold on, there are 22 emails.
Yeah. That
upon review should have been top secret and
should have been. Currently are considered to be for national security reasons top secret. So that could be because things have transpired since they have been sent. All they're saying is it's top fucking secret now, meaning we're not going to release them to the newspaper.
Yeah, there is a difference.
There's a big difference.
Hold on.
We don't want them released now is different than they should have been top secret then.
I think this is a great campaign point that she should use. I don't think it clears her of why top secret emails were going through her personal server in a way that's meaningful.
No, I
for
agree.
Her campaign,
but I also...
or necessarily for her criminal record. I don't know that information. I can't because they're top secret now.
Right.
But I think it's a problem.
Well, no one will ever know the contents. Well, not no one, but you and I will never know the contents of these emails. But it's okay. So you and I have talked about this, and I think it's worth bringing out there. Does anybody out there know what the actual criminal charge would be? Is it
negligence?
Yeah, is it criminal negligence of treatment with
it's not leaking state
government
secrets.
property?
Obviously, she didn't leak them.
Yeah, they're not leaked. They're not public.
No one ever found them. They were never hacked. There's no evidence that anyone ever discovered these top secret things ever because they were sent through a private email server. So that's not a question.
The only thing I can think of is criminal negligence. It's literally the only thing I can think of that you could actually charge somebody
I think it would be a stretch for her to be indicted on that.
Well, especially because it's
retroactively top secret classified emails on a private server. I think she may get... I think what we're going to see in a couple months is a report that comes out from the investigation that says this was improper, it shouldn't be done, it should never be done again, it was poor judgment, and, slap on the wrist and move on. And then the Republicans will still try to drag it out and hold more hearings or whatever, but that'll basically be it.
No, if she's the nominee, I anticipate one real big slap in the face hearing.
I think we got to find out before there's a nomination. I mean,
absolutely.
We can't be going into nominations with this hanging over her head.
No.
Or I'm not going to vote for I might not anyway, but you know what I mean? It's too scary for me, the idea that something could come out.
Well,
you
mean in the caucus. You don't mean in the general.
Yeah, obviously, I'll vote for whoever's the Democrat.
Well, let's clarify. We got people listening who don't
know the difference.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is a sticking point for me as well, which is it's really important to me that be resolved.
Yeah.
Before
quickly.
We have a nominee. Sorry, I was reading that wrong. They're still 11 apart. Sorry.
In the middle of a sentence.
I'm sorry. I thought they were 1 apart all of a sudden with an update. Sorry. Oh, well, now I've forgotten.
Okay.
All right.
Well, the Hillary email thing needs to get resolved, and the FBI needs to finish up their investigation, and I think they will in the next month or two.
So if the DNC's in late June,
Yes.
the last primary is June 17th, you said?
So the last primary is June 17th, but I don't know when the national convention is. I believe that's in...
I think it's in August, but I
August,
don't
yeah.
remember if that's true or not. But I can't wait till... Like, they need to get this resolved before any of that happens. Yeah?
Yeah.
I completely agree. Yeah.
All right, everyone's just watching Ted Cruz's speech right now, so let's take a break.
All right.
Were we really watching? No, we're not watching Ted Cruz's speech.
We already saw it.
Steve King's having a good time back there.
So as far as anything that's really progressing right now, we still really don't know. We've got 95% in.
Hillary is
11 still.
11 up still.
Yeah.
And there's 5% left, so...
There's not a whole lot of ground to make up there. It's not decided yet.
No, it's not.
Still too close to call for sure.
And we don't have a clock.
It's 9:26 our time.
No, I meant a clock as far as like when they're planning on having the other 5% in or anything like that.
No,
Like
just
they
when
do
they come in,
on
they come
in
in.
the general when they say like, you know, we're projecting that we'll or
Yeah.
we're saying we'll project something in, 25 minutes. There's nothing like that here.
No.
So who's that old geezer in the background? I know that's his wife.
Yeah, that's Ted
And
Cruz's wife.
That's Steve King, his other wife.
Ugh. Ugh. Steve King is a, senator or representative? Senator?
Yeah, he's
Out of Iowa.
He's a senator from Iowa.
Super
who's
conservative.
batshit crazy
Yep.
and
Nuts, douchebag.
says horrible
awful.
things about
Ugh.
immigrants. And
Oh, he's awful.
He is.
But he loves Cruz.
He loves him some Cruz, yeah.
So he gets to stand behind him in Iowa since Cruz brought him up, I think, like 7 times in the last debate.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, I think that's about going to wrap it up. I mean, if you guys want...
If we have a decider tonight and we're still awake and willing to do this, we'll come back. Otherwise, we'll resume our normal podcast schedule and kind of debrief what actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's probably not good
And it looks...
TV to watch us watch the news.
Nope.
There's an official, I think another semi-official Democratic debate before New Hampshire coming up on Thursday.
If Sanders agrees to it.
I think he has.
Okay.
I think they worked that out.
And there's also
Well,
a
no, O'Malley's
Republican
out now,
debate
so-
on February 6th.
Right.
So
Hosted by Fox again.
more
Is
debates
Trump
to
gonna
come,
show
you
up?
guys.
Yeah, I know you guys can't wait. All right, this is going to be it for now. Signing off. This is our inaugural Irreverent Testimony live stream.
Please let us know what you think. Do you want us to do this?
We know
Would
that
you
we know
prefer
that
podcast?
the audio and the video sucks.
Yeah.
We're working on that, but
Then
just,
we'll get a green screen and do some chroma key stuff. And...
Do you like to see our faces? Would you rather just hear us talk? Do you want us to do this? Just send us an email at irreverenttestimony@gmail.com. Tweet us at irreverentduo. Yeah, just let us know some feedback. Would be nice.
okay. That's it. Adios.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.